In this video, we are going to talk about credit apps free strategy for 2024. Let's dive into it. All right, my friends, welcome back. I'm excited to shoot this video and share this with you. Now, I know some of you might be thinking like,
what the heck, Jay? It's July of 2024. Why are we just now shooting this video?
Well, a little bit late to the party, but here's the great news. What I'm about to share and talk about is pretty much relevant and stacks on top of the 2023 video and all the other previous trainings. So first off, understand that. Secondly, this is gonna be good until at least the next interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve. So at least until that point, probably beyond that, this video and this information will still stay good and be relevant. After that point, if there's changes, then we'll come up with a new video based on new strategy that we're seeing. Next thing I want to note is everything that we talk about in these videos, you gotta understand there's such a deep ethos intertwined of what the community is actually doing. This is a community of ours, the Wallet Monkey community, that is out there in the trenches doing this stuff. Please understand that. This is coming from a place where people are actually doing this stuff, meaning like some of the intel's from yesterday, some of it's from last week, last month, some of it's combined over the last couple years. Like all this intel is coming from actual people doing this. So I really want to note that, okay? Because it's different from, maybe some other people out there that make videos and it's a lot of theory. We try and stay away from that. Let's dive in, yeah? I got some great stuff to share with you. First off, I think the general theme needs to be defensive posturing, defensive positioning on all fronts. Now, what do I mean by this? That means we are taking way more interest in protecting what's ours, freezing accounts, we're downloading all the credit bureau apps, we're paying for a credit report, we're making sure we're keeping eyes on our identity, we're using one, if not multiple identity theft tools, which yes, I understand some are free and some are gonna be paid, because with the amount of, hacks and exploits and breaches and things going on every single month, every single week now, we have to be defensive. And here's why. I think a lot of people miss is that as soon as a bank makes a mistake, as soon as somebody runs out and goes and maxes out one of your credit cards, there is a long line of effects that then happen based on that. Credit scores, then cards start to get called in, limits get cut. There's like this whole snowball effect of adverse action that occurs from just one identity theft, just one card that goes and gets maxed out, or get an overdraft on your checking, or something like that occurs from some stupid mistake. So I know it sucks, but we have to be really aggressive and defensive with how we're just managing our identity and our credit profiles, because it takes a lot more than you realize to clean it up. Now, my points of reference here are what happened recently with Baxter, BCU. You can go and listen to the live stream that we did, the most recent live stream. You'll see me talking about how that hit one of the OG members of the community, has a lot of credit, has a great credit profile, and it still messed with him. And he's still trying to clean that up, right? And so a lot of times the banks don't understand that this one mistake that they did now has this huge ripple effect. There's a ton of cleanup that has to occur now because of this. And so that was something that was somebody's mistake at the bank. And there's just like so much attack surface here that we have to defend against. So anyways, enough on that point. Next, this is something carried over from literally every other apps free video we've talked about. Work it bureau by bureau. Make sure that our credit profile is up to date. We don't have 4, 5, 10 different addresses, phone numbers, different variations of our name spelling. Make sure all that is accurate and up to date. Keeping an eye on the notes that creditors are putting on in the notes section, right? All of that, make sure that's all up to date. That's a basic at this point. And the work bureau by bureau, I only mention that because there might be new viewers watching this that have never heard of that before, even though we talk about it in a lot of videos. Instead of going and buckshot app spring, multiple tabs, fire it all off at once, very ineffective strategy for 2024 and beyond. What are all the banks I'm going to go to here? TransUnion, Equifax. And then what starts to happen is we stagger this out so that we're always just about ready for another app spree. All of our inquiries and 2 years of new accounts is starting to fall off. That stuff is starting to be less effective. Us getting new credit, and then boom, this one's ready to go. We cleaned up this credit bureau, boom, this one's ready to go. So we can stack this in a way that it's more so like an ongoing app spree that never really ends, right? Even though there will be a hard endpoint, I'm sure, for most of you watching this. Next, position yourself for layups. I'm really starting to see this is becoming more impactful on the credit union side. Just getting into the credit union, getting membership, yes, getting that first card and the second, third, fourth cards, those all become easier to get. But even just getting into the ecosystem, letting them soft pull your credit and giving it 90 to 180 days, you start to get pre-approved offers with a ton of these credit unions. Dozens of them that we talk about have profiled. We talk about them on a regular basis in the Discord. They will start to pre-approve you. Let them do that. Just chill, relax. Once you're pre-approved, that means no hard pull for 99% of them. And the limits, they're going to tell you what the limit is. 10, 15, 20K cards with no hard pull. It's easy, it's simple. So set yourself up for these layups. And that means going and tactfully getting yourself set up in credit unions, letting them all, hitting them with deposits, playing the game, right? Building up transactional history with them, getting money markets or CDs or pledge loans like with Navy Fed, and starting to build out this transactional history, this internal score, let's call it, whether they do that or not, doesn't matter. And then that positions us better to start getting better pre-approvals and higher dollar amounts down the line with them, right? And then after we get that first set of credit products, products, treat it well. Take good care of it. Don't max it out and leave it sitting there for years and years and years maxed out. Take good care of it, and then when you go back for seconds and thirds, it becomes that much easier. Maybe now we want lines of credit or personal loans. You know, these credit unions have usually a lot more credit products that they can offer you than a traditional bank. Next, to kind of pivot into the business side, we've been harping on this now a lot. Business bank rating. There is a scoring algorithm that they use, and it's based on how much dollars you deposit into the bank. We want to be somewhere in the fives. Low fives is $10,000, high fives is over $100,000. We want to keep it in there from somewhere between 90 to 180 days, that's 3 to 6 months, so that your business bank rating then gets calculated. And at that point, you'll either start to get calls from a BRM, like if you've got $100,000 or more at the business checking account, you'll start to get calls from BRMs much sooner than 90 days. They'll probably reach out to you immediately. They'll be telling you how to position yourself, what the bank might also not like about your credit profile. Go pay this down a little bit. Oh, pay that off. Do this, do that. Get you into position because it's in their best interest to have you get more money because they get more commission. So the BRMs will start reaching out to you. You know, all these things will start to happen in succession. So we want to build up that business bank rating if we've got the cash flow to do it. And even if you're sitting at 5, 10K, you know, move that around, you know, muscle that around and start to have it work for you, right? You can work this bank by bank, and then you can clean up the inquiries because they will pull your personal credit. We can wipe a lot of those, clean that up, and then we can go right back 30, 60 days later, depending on how good you are at cleaning up at that same bank and get more. If the cash flow, if the business supports that, it's really easy to go and do and get again. If you're like barely piecing this all together, you might not be able to go back for such a quick double dip. You might have to wait 6 months or so. But again, the more cash flow you have, the easier it is to go back and double dip 30, 60 days and again and again and again and again. And then once we're done with one bank, and if you haven't for some reason gotten all the credit funding that you need / want, you could then kind of pick up that strategy and move it over to another bank. Now, this is where a lot of questions come in. Do I remove 100% of my deposit? I would say if you can keep the whole thing in there, keep it in there, and then just come over here and start at another bank. But if you can't, I would slowly move it out over the span of like a month or two. You definitely don't want to go like, I deposit 100K, cool, yesterday they just gave me a 50K card, today let me pull out $100,000 from the bank and move into another one. No, we want to kind of ease into that, right? So we want to pull out a little bit by little and start to then allocate that to another bank to build up business bank rating, get in with a BRM hopefully, and then get some more credit from that one. And we can kind of take this structure and pick it up and move it for as many banks as you need to get what you want, right? In terms of credit. Next is at the end of the app spree, obviously we need to talk about the proper gardening strategy. And we covered that thankfully in a dedicated video. You can check that out, 2024 gardening strategy. Essentially, you want to set yourself up for the next phase of things. And that is to go and, you know, start to put some hits on our check systems by joining more credit unions. That's to pick the next couple of big banks that you want to focus on, start to move over deposits, ACHs, all of that to get yourself in position for when the credit profile is cleaned up again and we could go right back into AppSpring. Okay, so that we always want to think about that piece, which a lot of people forget about. The gardening strategy, it comes at the tail end of that, the AppSpring, right? So anyways, now let's kind of pivot here. And I want to give you some tactical advice for different scenarios, okay? First, if you have a cash flow rich business, which there's a ton of people that come to us with great cash flow, but they have no credit at all, meaning that they kind of either let their credit go to crap and then they went out and found a side hustle that started producing a ton of money. Now they got, you know, more cash flow than they know what to do with. Now they want to go back to the banks and start to rebuild relationships and get credit. Well, it's kind of similar strategy. You want to start to max out those deposits into business checking accounts to get that business bank rating. And again, all the other notes that we just covered above will be relevant here again. And yeah, use that same kind of strategy. We've got the cash flow. Let's put it to work. Let's really lean into that and start to build out different silos at banks. The easiest bank to start with would be the bank that you're already pulling out all of your deposits to. So let's say you're using Stripe or some sort of online processor. You're pushing all that to some bank account. What is that bank account? Go to that bank first. They're already seeing all the deposits hitting daily, weekly, monthly. Go to them first, see what they're willing to do, and then start to branch out. So that'd be my advice there. Next, if you're just starting to test out side hustles and this is kind of new to you and you don't have a lot of cash flow to work with, really, you know, pinch your pennies and really keep things lean and tight for as long as you possibly can while on the road of trying to discover a side hustle that will start to generate revenue, because we really don't want to be putting large limits and holding them there on cards, because that's what everyone else is doing right now. There's a ton of people that are underwater, overexposed, and in a really bad place, and the next thing for them is bankruptcy. We do not want to be in that position. We want to give ourselves enough runway to be able to effectively test out these ideas and then, you know, get to a point to where we can find one that's working and profitable, push all of our chips into that. Outside of that, the last thing I can say is, you know, here we are a couple years post-COVID. After that whole thing happened, and we really got to start getting refocused in on what's important. Like the trauma of all that, I hope for most of you watching, is over with, and now we need to start getting focused on what's our legacy going to be? What's going to be the story that we tell our grandkids, our kids even, of how we behaved, what we went and did after this event occurred, you know, because it occurred, it's done with. Now we need to, you know, move on and show how we responded to that. Right now could be a great time for you. You could go out and make more money now than you've ever made in your life. There is demand for all kinds of very unique, interesting things right now. So we need to position ourselves properly, and that's what credit credit can allow us to do. It is a tool at the end of the day, and we need to leverage that tool, put it to work for us best ways possible. And that's really all we're trying to focus on with this channel, and we have since the very beginning. So that's all I've got for you. This is Credit Apps Free Strategies for 2024 and beyond. Thank you so much for watching. Question below or comment below with everything that you got. Share this with a friend, do all this social media stuff. Please, it helps with the algorithm more than you realize with YouTube. And that's it for this one. We'll catch you in the next video. Hey, you should subscribe. 60% of you are not subscribed yet. Right there. Okay, bye.